Hello everyone, my name is Kaushik Dadakia and I'm here to talk to you today about blockchain in healthcare. So just a quick background about myself. I graduated recently with a Bachelor of Science in Biology from the City College of New York. I'm currently enrolled in the Master's Program of Healthcare Management at American University. And for the past few years, I've always been fascinated by cryptocurrency. And once I realized that it worked on the blockchain, it made me think, how can we use blockchain and implement it into healthcare? Executive summary. So what I recommend is that all healthcare facilities implement an electronic health record system built on the blockchain for three reasons which we'll get into detail later on. 1. Easier accessibility. 2. Better security because of better encryption. And 3. Reduction in costs. So what is blockchain? Blockchain is a decentralized public ledger with no central authority, allowing for a database that is transparent, peer-managed, and allows for secure data tracking. This is essential to the future of healthcare in the United States because it is expected that the US will spend close to 20% of its GDP on healthcare alone. This is well more than the average of 6.7%. And if we look at the Gartner hype curve, we can see blockchain is just over the peak and is expected to be relevant in our lives within the next 5 to 10 years. So how does blockchain work? So just basically, say for example, I'm just going to use Bitcoin. I want to purchase 5 shares of Bitcoin. This transaction is represented online as a block. This block is then broadcast to every party within the network, which is essentially every computer. The network of computers, called data miners, approve of the transaction, making it valid. And then the block is then added to the chain, hence blockchain, and this provides a transparent and permanent record of my transaction. And now I have received my share of Bitcoin. And this would work the same way with records, contracts, etc. So who are the stakeholders? The stakeholders for this system are all healthcare facilities. This includes hospitals, clinics, pharmacies, patients, and investors, everyone who benefits from an electronic health record system on the blockchain. Business activity in the present day. Healthcare today can be best described as being inefficient, bureaucratic, error-prone, and filled with high administrative costs. So when we look at electronic health record system, every doctor's office or hospital has their own system with medical information of all their patients. The information is central within the organization, but not readily available outside its network. It is why we always have to fill out multiple forms each time we go visit a new doctor, and why we constantly have to update our medical records every year. The problem with the system largely pertains to the risk of medical information being inaccurate at every healthcare facility, as we may lose medical data as the years pass. Medical data sharing is also an issue in today's healthcare climate, as the system for interoperability is essentially non-existent and creates EHR systems that are fragmented rather than cohesive. This leads to issues pertaining to billing and prior authorizations as well. So when patients need to start medication immediately and are denied due to a prior authorization, it affects their well-being, as the process takes, on average, 2 or more days to get an approval. Business activity of the future can look very different in healthcare with the implementation of blockchain to the EHR system. The first system I want to talk about is a twofold system, which contains on-chain data stored directly on the blockchain and off-chain data, which contains links stored on the blockchain that are actually stored in a traditional database that exists today. In this system, medical information would be stored on the blockchain, safely securing the data while allowing immediate access to all providers in all connected organizations within the network. The blockchain in this case is a single source of all patient data. The off-chain data would include all other medical data, such as MRI images, genomes, x-rays, things of that nature. Basically, any data which is considered abstract. The second system is a data lake's EHR system. This is a system in which medical information is stored in the blockchain in data repositories called data lakes. Data lakes contain many information of all data types, and it is all stored on the blockchain. So for example, if a healthcare provider writes a prescription or makes note of a patient's illness, the medical record would create a digital signature to verify authenticity of the information. The data is then encrypted and stored in the data lake. Because patients have direct access to their unique data lake, they will always be in the know of when their medical records are added. Patients also directly grant providers access to their information. What makes this unique is that data lakes also have the ability to provide real-time analytics of all information on blockchain's secure network, and even allows for machine or AI learning. This would greatly benefit research as they have access to information while also ensuring patient privacy. The last system is called the MedRec EHR system. MedRec implements 3 types of contracts, each designed to perform its own set of functions and contain different information for ease of access. The first contract is the registrar contract. The registrar contract contains the initial and general information of a patient, such as their name, date of birth, and address. The second contract is the patient-provider relationship contract. This contract contains the medical history of a patient. It is secure just like any other system on the blockchain. The third contract is the summary contract. The summary contract contains a reference list with all previous and current providers of a patient. It is part of the blockchain that notifies patient of new providers and allows patient to decide who has permission to their medical records. SWOT analysis of an EHR system on the blockchain. Strengths. The first is efficiency. All medical data of a patient is kept in one area, allowing for easier access and making it error-free. Blockchain also has a better encryption method than a traditional database, making it less likely to be hacked. This system can be universal, which greatly benefits the patients and providers. It can even eliminate prior authorizations. When looking at weaknesses, it's safe to say most people still don't understand blockchain and how it works. There are conflicts with existing regulations, so that definitely needs to be changed. One of the biggest weaknesses is that companies no longer control data, as in this system, the medical data is controlled by the patients themselves. And, this is a fairly new system, so it is still immature at this point. When looking at opportunities, patients have control over their data, which again improves security and allows patients to ensure that their data is not being used in a wrong way. This has also allowed for increased research capabilities, as I mentioned with the data lakes EHR system. It can open up new revenue streams as new companies can be created, and this can drastically improve the delivery of healthcare, creating a much better healthcare system than we currently have. When looking at threats, it would be the current regulations, which again needs to be changed. Many are still skeptical of blockchain, and this is especially true because when you look at the volatility of cryptocurrencies which exist on the blockchain. And another threat is that there needs to be a universal agreement for a certain level of encryption, and the question is, will companies come to an agreement on a universal encryption level? And the last threat, but certainly not the least, there are no set standards of data currently in place for the system. Again, it's a fairly new system, so a lot of rules and regulations need to be put in place. Outcomes of an EHR system on the blockchain. First, providers can focus on their jobs, which is to provide excellent patient care. This can increase the number of patients a doctor would see on a daily basis because the blockchain would allow easy access to patient information and would eliminate the need to call a pharmacy or to call another primary care physician to see if they have matching medical data. Blockchain can also reduce improper billing and can essentially eliminate prior authorizations. It can even satisfy those opposed to the US's current healthcare system. So next, I just want to go into explaining how blockchain can improve and simplify the payer system and even eliminate prior authorizations. Payer systems today are very complex, slow, and frustrating. In our current system, when a patient visits a doctor or any provider, the provider must send paper and electronic claims to a middleman to be audited and cleared. The claim is then sent to the payer to be adjudicated, and then the payer decides how much of the bill to cover based on their contract with the provider and the insurance plan. The provider is reimbursed by the payer, and the patient is then sent a bill. Clearly, this process is long and complicated. The volume of claims currently is too high, and the demands are just not met. With blockchain will create a smart contract that auto-adjudicates payments to providers when their contract criteria are met. No longer will the payer have to wait for the provider to send information about a patient's visit. The patient can simply give access to the payer, and the payer can view a patient's medical record stored on the blockchain in real time. Then the payer can simply reimburse the provider based on the criteria. And this could also work with prior authorizations. This would allow real-time information to be accessed to speed up approvals, and hence eliminating prior authorizations, because a patient could be at the doctor's office and the payer would have access to the information immediately. So what are the risks? The two biggest risks are hackers and the elderly. So research on security suggests that fraud is very unlikely in a blockchain system, but at any given point, some level of human verification is always required in order to secure the information that one cannot help but think security and privacy could be compromised. And because everything is stored digitally, there might be a prone to hacking. While difficult to hack the blockchain, it could happen and expose data of potentially millions of people, which could be very deadly. The second risk are the elderly, and the reason they are a risk is because this system solely relies on everything being digital, and as it is, the elderly may have difficulty understanding how it works, how to secure their digital key, and overall just how to use the system. And this could be difficult because a large population of the elderly rely on healthcare. So, it's our job to make sure that the system is easy to use and not actually a risk for senior citizens. So how would we implement blockchain into the EHR system? First, we need to notify patients of the new changes. And the first thing I would recommend is to implement the two-fold blockchain method, where you have off-chain data and on-chain data. So in this case, we can begin moving medical data onto the blockchain while still maintaining the traditional method of storage, which is keeping it on a traditional database. In phase 2, we would begin to roll out digital keys for patients, which would allow them to have access to their medical data and determine whether or not they want to give their data to other providers. We can also roll out tutorials on how this would work to make it easier for patients as well as for providers. And towards the end of phase 2, we can implement the data lake system into the existing blockchain, but still maintaining storage on a traditional database. In phase 3, we would begin removing medical data from traditional databases, increase encryption, and now add the MedRec system, which includes the contracts. Phase 4 would be to remove all data from traditional databases and have it solely on the blockchain, continuously update software to meet industry standards, and to attempt to achieve as close to universality as possible. So in closing, blockchain is a key emerging technology. As I mentioned earlier, the EHR system can be, on the blockchain, universal, more efficient, and more secure. So I just want to end on two questions. Are you ready to be part of the future, and are you ready to disrupt healthcare as we currently know it? Thank you.